Jack, just quick thumbs up. Can you see the slides okay? Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Right, let's kick off, everyone. We've got a lot to get through, as I said. Let me just minimize this window here. Brilliant. Okay. So, good morning, everyone. My name's Kevin, Chief Operating Officer at Scottish Edge, and I am running the process of the competition. My job is to make sure that everyone that comes through our application process is fully informed, is fully guided, and has got all the information they need to, number one, submit a good application, hopefully get through first stage, and then get through the next phases of the competition, supported by the rest of the Scottish Edge team. Joining me today is Jack. Jack's our marketing manager. Jack, as I said, is going to be handling the chat for us today in terms of Q&A. And Jack will support with any other questions around the competition as we go through the session. So as I said, a lot to get through what we're going to cover. So I'm going to talk to you about Scottish Edge, what it is, why we're here. If you don't know what Scottish Edge is, I'll explain in a little bit more detail. I'll talk about the competition categories that we run and what categories you may be thinking about applying for. Talk about the key dates of the competition timeline. So these are the things you really need to be aware of, especially if you're planning, if you're hoping to get through all the different stages, you need to know when these different stages are going to take place so they don't clash with other things in your diary. We'll talk about the application process itself. I'm hoping most of you will have logged onto the portal, have a look at the application. You'll have started prepping on that because it's opened already. But if you haven't, I'll give you a good run through of what the application process actually looks like. I'll talk to you about the importance of a good 3-minute pitch and how to make a difference and how to structure your video pitch. If you've never done that before, that can be quite daunting for some people, but I'll give you lots and lots of information as to where do you start with communicating your business story in 3 minutes. We'll then talk about the assessment process. So what happens after you submit your application form? What process does that go through and what's the parameters of that? So we'll keep you informed of how that's going to go. Then we'll start to add some top tips. So I've been with Scottish Edge for over 7 years now. I think I've seen 12, 13 rounds of Edge. And I've learned a lot about what makes a good application and what makes a good pitch. So we'll share some information around that as well as we go throughout the day. And just based on our experience, what have we seen, what have we learned, and what are the judges looking for in terms of a good, strong, clear application and a good pitch video. So we'll share as much as we can on that as well. And then at the end, it's over to you guys for questions. So let's get kicked off. Now, we are adding an additional element of support in this round of Scottish Edge. Next Tuesday, Tuesday the 18th at 10 a.m, we're running an additional support workshop, and that's for applicants with any neurodiverse conditions who need some additional support to complete the application. We're running that in partnership with Elevator. So there'll be information shared on our social media channels after this event today. So if you would like to inquire or come along to that additional online workshop, it should last about an hour. If you want to come along to that to find out what additional support may be available to applicants with neurodiverse conditions, please come along to that. It's free. You can sign up through the link via our socials. As I said, that will be released just after this workshop. So let's go. What is Scottish Edge? So if you don't know, if you've not been through Scottish Edge before, Scottish Edge is a funding competition. And we were set up back in 2012 as a pilot in conjunction with Scottish Enterprise. So it was a pilot set up in Scottish Enterprise back then because the funding landscape for early stage companies, it was recognised that there was a gap in funding for businesses that were, very early stage, the ones that were too high risk for banks but too early for investors. So John Swinney, at the time, he made a trip out to the States, and he seen a competition called the Mass Challenge. And the Mass Challenge was about, getting support and funding into early stage companies. So he brought that back to Scotland and says, how can we create something like this? And the Scottish Edge competition was named and created as a pilot inside Scottish Enterprise. It was so successful over the 2 years that it ran the pilot that it was oversubscribed massively. So it was spun out into its own company. So Scottish Edge CIC was created in 2014. We are Scottish Edge CIC, a community interest company. We are a social enterprise. And believe it or not, we're only a team of 7. But we deliver 2 rounds per year of the competition. Each round, we award over 1.5 million in funding. And we can see 400 applications, more than 400 applications a year, and we can support up to 70 companies every single year. So why look at Scottish Edge as an option for funding for your business? We're open to all sectors. We're completely sector agnostic. We don't pigeonhole into tech. We don't pigeonhole into food and drink. We'll look at applications from every sector across the whole of Scotland. You get feedback as you come through the process. So one of the things that we get told by our applicants on a regular basis is the quality and depth of the feedback that you get at every stage is really, really valuable. So we're asking you to complete quite a lengthy application form. So we make sure our judges who review your application forms give you good, detailed feedback on what they've read, what they've seen. So that's whether you're successful or not at each stage, you always get feedback. We offer lots and lots of support, like this workshop today. We offer lots of support to help you be the best you can be through the first stage process, through any finals process or semi-finals that comes up. We always offer additional support to help you be the best you can be on that day itself. And you get access to a massive network come through Scottish Edge as well. So if you're successful at Scottish Edge, you'll join the Edge alumni, which we'll talk about in a second. And you can maximise that network with all the businesses who've come before you over the years. You can connect with them and you can look them up for connections and advice and guidance as well. We're also flexible funders. So what I mean by that is because the Scottish Edge element of our award has got a loan attached to it, we can be super flexible around that loan in terms of repayment. We are not a bank, but we have a lending element to our model because it helps us be self-sustaining. So we're getting towards self-sustaining, although we do get support from key partners. But we've got a rolling loan fund, which constantly builds, and that money gets revolved, and we put that out to more and more companies as that loan fund builds. But the loan element in the Scottish Edge category awards, which we'll talk about soon, can be super flexible. So we are supported by Scottish Government for our grants. We're also supported by the Royal Bank of Scotland, who supported with the funding for the loan. The Hunter Foundation continues to support in many ways, and we get huge support from Scottish Enterprise, who also put in some grant funding for some of our awards. Now, we are backed up by connecting into the whole business ecosystem because we can't run Scottish Edge just in a team of 7. So we rely very heavily on all the business partners across Scotland. And we work with many, many organisations to make sure this competition runs as smoothly as it does. So what has Scottish Edge achieved so far? Well, in our existence as a community interest company, we've seen over 5,500 applications. We've supported 663 businesses. We've awarded over 28 million in funding. And these winners are from all over Scotland. In the name, it's a bit of a clue, but Scottish Edge is for Scottish companies. We're looking to fund businesses that are based here, headquartered here, or will be headquartered here, who can, grow their businesses, generate jobs, well-paid jobs, and generate revenue for the Scottish economy. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to find and fund. So if you haven't looked at the application process on that point, if you haven't looked at anything yet, I would recommend you download the competition brochure. Go to the website, download the competition brochure. Everything I'm telling you here just about is in that brochure. So you can get all that information, you can read that at your leisure. But one of the first things you have to think about is what category are you applying for? So the Scottish Edge category is the main category. You can apply for up to £100,000 in funding. And it's a 30% grant, 70% loan. So if you're successful in the Scottish Edge category and you get 100k, 30,000 will be a grant and 70,000 will be a loan. To be eligible to apply for the Scottish Edge category, you must be a registered business entity. So it's got to be a limited company, you can be a social enterprise, a KIC or a charity, but it must be a business entity of some kind because there's a loan element to the award and that loan has to sit against a business entity. It can't go to a sole trader. So it has to be a limited company of some kind or a business entity because that's where the loan element is attributed to. If you're applying to the Social Edge category, it must be an asset-locked social enterprise. So if you're most of the applicants we get are community interest companies anyway, and they are asset locked, but you might have to check your articles on that if you're unsure. So asset locked basically means that, all the value in that social enterprise stays within that company. You can apply for up to £75,000 of funding, and that is a different loan grant split. That's actually 70% grant and 30% loan. And that's backed up by your sponsors to make sure that the social enterprise gets less of a debt burden because of the social good that they're trying to achieve. So a key point with that, the loan is less in the Social Edge compared to the Scottish Edge. Okay? So if you weren't aware of that, take a note of that. If you're applying for Social Edge, the loan grant split is flipped, 70% grant and 30% loan, and your maximum you can apply for is 75k. If you're applying for a Young Edge award, so that's up to a £15,000 grant. So there's two top awards of 15k and about other awards of 10k. If you're applying for that, the founder must be aged 30 or younger. And that must be either a business entity, so a limited company, social enterprise, a KIC or a charity, but it can also be a sole trader or a partnership because there is no loan element. So you can be a sole trader or a partnership to apply for Young, but the founder or founders must be under 30 years old. You can apply for up to a maximum of 15,000, and that's a grant only. If you're applying for the Wildcard Award, so that's really early stage pre-trading ideas, it must be a registered entity of some kind again. So limited company, social enterprise, KIC, but again, it can be a sole trader and it can be a partnership. So there's a broad range for Young and Wild in terms of, what the structure of your company actually is. And for Wildcard, there will be a top award of £15,000 grant, and there'll be other awards of £10,000. These are all grants. So it doesn't have to be a limited company. You can be a sole trader because there is no loan elements for that category either. Again, all of this information is on a brochure. All of this information is on our website. On top of the awards themselves, when you go through the application process, you will tick some boxes to say to register if you think you're eligible for any of these special category awards. Now, these special category awards don't bring any additional funding as such. They come with awards. They come with funding. Obviously, that's why you're here. But there are additional kind of recognition special category awards, and I'll talk through what that means. So the top one is a new one that we've got, Scottish Enterprise. So this is a Scottish Enterprise sponsored Missions Edge Award. So Scottish Enterprises get three key missions around, a sustainable future, around scaling businesses and a few other things. If you look up the Scottish Enterprise website, you can see what the three missions are. Recommend you have a look at that, because if you feel as if your business is, leaning towards aligning with these Scottish Enterprise three missions, you can apply for up to £150,000 in that category. That's the only category you can apply for up to 150k. This is a new award that Scottish Enterprise are funding for us. So if you feel as if your business aligns with the three missions and you need 150k, then you may well want to check the box to say you're applying for Missions Edge. That award comes with 150k, as I said. That's a 30% grant, 70% loan split. So it's the same loan grant split as all the Scottish Edge category awards. So, that's just bear in mind, if you're applying for 150k, 70% of that will be loan. So make sure you factor that into your finances, factor in your thought processes on returning the repayments on that loan. The Royal Bank of Scotland support us with a Scale Edge. So that's an additional award, so an additional recognition award for businesses that are looking to scale. You can check that box if you believe you've got a good scalable model. And you can apply for up to 100,000 in funding in that as well. Again, 30% grant, 70% loan. We've also got the STV Growth Edge Award, a special award. That is up to £75,000. That comes with an additional £75,000 of ad spend. So you can get £75,000 of edge funding and an additional £75,000 of ad spend from STV. Basically, what that means is they can create an advert for you and they can give you airtime as part of that £75,000 package. So that 75k from STV is over and above your award from Edge. But it's not a cash value, it's an in-kind value. It's 75k worth of ad spend on STV. We've also got a Circular Economy Edge award that you might want to check if you feel as if you've got a really strong circular focus. Again, you can apply for up to 100k with 30% grant and 70% loan, same as the other categories. And then there's a the Scottish Government sponsored Pathways Award. So it's a special award for a female founded business. Again, you can apply for up to 100k, 30% grant and 70% loan. And finally, we've got a Creative Edge award. So special award for a creative sector business, again up to 100k, 30% loan and 30% grant, 30% loan. So these are all the same category awards in terms of loan grant split. The only difference is the social edge. All the other top awards are all 30% grant and 70% loan. Now, the key eligibility apply across all applicants. So your business must be pre-trading or have been trading for less than 5 years. What I mean by trading is generating revenue. A lot of people think that because you set up a limited company on Companies House, that doesn't count as trading. So you may have a company that you've had for a year, but you don't actually start trading until 12 months after that. It's from when you start trading, which is generating revenue from customers. That's when we consider to be your start of your trading period. The business must be headquartered in Scotland and the founder or founders resident in Scotland. The Scottish Edge team want to work with the founders, so that's why it's important that the founders are based here. And you're planning to headquarter in Scotland, you're going to grow a business here, so you must be headquartered in Scotland and the founders resident in Scotland. If you have a current business trading, your current sales turnover must be less than £1 million per year. If you have raised investment, the maximum investment amount you're allowed is 500k. Anything over that, and you're not eligible to apply for Scottish Edge, unfortunately. 50% of the business ownership must be attributed to directors actively working in the business on a day-to-day basis. So what that means is, so if the directors of the business must be owning more than 50%. If you're applying to Scottish Edge, you're a director of the company, you have to be more than 50% ownership of that company that you're applying with. And the business must have ambitions to generate an additional £200,000 of turnover over the next 3 years after the Scottish Edge Award. So we want you to come in and say, if you give us X amount of funding, we'll generate an additional £200,000 of funding over the next 3 years. And you put that into your 3-year sales projections in your application form. So what does the journey look like based on the category you apply for? So we'll talk about the key dates in a second, but you'll come into the competition, you'll submit your application form, your video, and everyone goes through a first stage assessment process. So all the applicants are reviewed, and the winners that are going through to the next relevant stages will be chosen. I'll talk about the timeline in a second and what that actually looks like. But if you do the bottom line first, so if you come in for Social Edge, Young or Wild, you'll go through first stage, and if you're successful at first stage, you will go straight to a subcategory final. So if you come in for a Social Enterprise Edge, you'll go from first stage straight to final. If you come in for a Young Edge, you'll go from first stage straight to final. If you come in for a wild card, you go from first stage straight to final. If you come in for the Scottish Edge category awards, then you go through a semi-final process. So you come into first stage. If you're successful at that, you get whittled down to semi-final stage. If you get through semi-finals, you go to the live pitching stage in Goulburn. That's the final pitching day, and the winners are chosen from there. So 2 slightly different paths depending on which way you go. But to summarise, if you're coming in for a top award, 100,000 or something around that amount, you will go through first stage and you will go through semi-final stage and final. If you're coming in for a Social Edge category award, a Young or a Wild, you'll go from first stage straight to final before you find out if you've been successful. So one of the things we do get asked is, we always hear that Scottish Edge is a tough competition, which it is. So we like to give you some stats. So based on the last round 24, we had 256 applications. So people say, well, what are the chances of winning? Well, I always say, regardless of the chances of winning, if you put an application form in, you're going to get feedback. And everyone who does Edge for the first time learns so much more about the business by going through the application process because it's really, really detailed. And it makes you think about what you know and it highlights what you don't know. So, chances of winning, I can give you some statistics. But if you've never done Scottish Edge before, I guarantee when you go through this process, you will learn a hell of a lot more about your business than you ever thought you could. And that puts you in good stead for future rounds because you can apply to Scottish Edge as many times as you like, whether you're successful. Sorry, if you're not successful at Scottish Edge, you can keep coming back. So, if you are coming in for a top award in the Scottish Edge categories, last round we had 113 applications applied and we had 14 winners. So that was about a 12% ratio of winners from applied. The Young Edge category, we had 33 applicants and 12 winners. So that was quite a high percentage. But the wildcard category was massively oversubscribed. We had 99 applications for 8 winners. So remember, the wildcard is the early stage pre-trading. It's really early stage ideas. There was 8 winners in that. And that was an 8% ratio because that was quite a jump in the wildcard category. I've not seen it that high for quite a few years. And then in the social enterprise edge category, we had 11 businesses applied and there was 1 winner. So there is only one top award in social edge because 75k is a good amount to move a social enterprise forward. And the judges don't like to split that down because then you're diluting the funding. So there'll be one social edge winner up to £75,000. And so that ratio currently sits about 9%. So whether these are useful for you or not, we've been asked to share them. But at the end of the day, it's what you learn throughout the process that's really of value. So what are the key dates? So what's going to happen from here? All this information, as I said, is on our website. So our application window is open, if you didn't know that. We are open for applications now and we will close on the 27th of February. Now the application window will close at 2 p.m. on 27th of February. No exceptions. So please don't wait to start an application on the day. This will take you time. If you haven't looked at the portal, if you haven't looked at the application, I recommend you do it today to really scope out how much work you have to put into this. Don't leave this to the last minute because you won't get submitted in time. This will take work. It will take prep. So I recommend if you haven't looked at the portal, do that as soon as you come off this call. Get a feel for the work you have to complete, what you know, what you don't know, because it will take you time. And you've now got 15 days left before you can submit an application. That sounds like a lot of time, but it's not. So I thoroughly recommend you don't leave this to the last minute because I know for a fact that I see applications that are last minute because they lack detail, they're rushed, they don't give the judges what they need, and the judges, they can see straight through applications that are last minute. Don't do that to yourself. Don't waste your time. Put the time into this. There's word count there in the application boxes. Use the word count wisely. Put good detailed information in there and plan the time to complete before 27th of February. Once you've submitted your application, you will hear on the 12th of March if you've been successful at the first stage. If you've not been successful, you'll get feedback on the application. If you have been successful, you'll also get feedback, but you'll get details of where you go next. So if you come into a Scottish Edge Top Award application, you'll be directed towards one of our 5 semi-finals. And the dates are on screen here. These semi-finals are conducted over Zoom, where you will come into a Zoom room and you'll pitch to a panel of 4 judges and they will ask you questions. So you will pitch for 3 minutes. The judges will ask questions for 13 minutes to really get to know your business. And the semi-final judges will choose their finalists from there. So if you're coming into the Scottish Edge category, from the first stage, there will be 55 semi-finalists chosen. So 55 businesses will go from first stage Scottish Edge category through to the semi-finals. Then from the semi-finals, there'll be approximately 24 finalists chosen after that. If you're coming in through the first stage process and you're applying for a Young Edge award, you'll find out on the 12th of March if you've been successful, and you'll be directed to one of the two online finals on the 16th or 17th of April. Similar format, you'll come into a Zoom room, you'll pitch for 3 minutes, you'll be questioned for 10 minutes by 4 judges, and they'll decide which businesses get funding, and you'll find out immediately after the finals if you've been successful in getting an award. If you come into wildcard, again, you'll go through first stage, you'll find out the 12th of March if you've got to the wildcard final. That takes place 24th of April, and that again is an online session. You will join, pitch for 3 minutes, questions for 10 minutes by 4 judges, and at the end of the day, the judges will decide who gets awards, and you'll find out immediately after that final if you've been successful. If you come through first stage, 12th of March, and you're coming into the Social Edge final, you'll find out if you've got a place in that final on the 12th of March, and the final for that is on the 30th of April. That's an in-person event in Edinburgh. So if you get to the Social Edge final, you will come to a room in Edinburgh, you'll pitch in front of 4 judges in a live environment. You'll pitch for 3 minutes, and the judges will ask you questions for approximately 13 minutes on the Social Edge final. Once the final is complete, the judges at the end of the day will choose their winner and will notify that winner immediately after that final. If you're coming into the Scottish Edge category for a top award, you've been through semi-finals in April, you'll be guided to, if you're successful at semis, you'll be guided towards the 9th of May. That's the final day. 24 finalists will be chosen, and those 24 finalists will be split into 2 different rooms. So there'll be one room with 12 finalists and 4 judges, the other room with 12 finalists and 4 judges. Each finalist will pitch for 3 minutes and then be asked questions in a live environment by the judges for 10 minutes. At the end of the day, both sessions will be completed. The judges will then they'll pick their award winners, and for the Scottish Edge main category award winners, you will find out if you've been successful at the award ceremony on the 20th of May. So the winners will be announced on the 20th of May, and that's when you'll find out if you've been successful. Okay, so on the application process itself, up to £100,000, £150,000 business funding. If you go to the Scottish Edge website, this is what it looks like right now. You can click apply here, and there's a button on there for workshops and different support. So you're in the workshop just now, but there's an apply here button on the website, and you've got until 2 p.m. on the 27th of February to get your application in. This is what it'll look like when you sign up to the portal. You'll click in, it'll ask you to create an account. If you're a new applicant or if you've already registered, then you'll start your application process, which will look like this. There's a guide there on how to complete the application. You can review and print your application as well. Now, you don't have to sit and complete your application from end to end. You can do a section and save it and come back. So if you look down the screen, you'll see the application questions. There's different sections. So there's a section on funding, one on value proposition, one on team, one on impact, customer focus, business growth, and use of funds, and any additional attachments. When you've completed a section, it will go green. When you've started a section, it will go orange. And when you haven't started a section, it will remain white. So you can monitor how complete your application actually is, and make sure you plan ahead to make sure this is all complete and done before the submission date on the 27th of February. We'll ask you to complete your pitch video, which we'll talk about in a second, and insert the link into your application. And if you want to put a video link password, you can. I strongly recommend against that, unless you've got some crucial information you want to protect, because the video link only gets shared with the judges, who are all under confidentiality agreements. But if you feel as if you need a video link password, feel free to put that in there. But it can create challenges for judges who, if the link password is not correct, they can't get access to your video. So my recommendation is don't use a link password if you can. Put the link video in, and then we'll talk to you in a second about how do you make that unlisted and viewable for the judges themselves. So we've gathered some information, a lot of the questions we get around the finances, the numbers. So we've gathered some information on, when you get to the finance section, when you get to the business growth section of your application, here's some hints and tips to think about. Be very clear on checking the button in the application to say if you're trading or pre-trading for your business. So if you're pre-trading, you haven't started generating any revenue and you've got a trading date in the future of when you're going to actually start to generate revenue. If you're trading at the moment, if you're selling at the moment, make sure you put in the correct trading date. When did you start trading? Because that helps generate the rest of the figures in the application itself. We're looking for businesses to submit ambitious but achievable sales, profit, and job projections. So we're not looking for a hockey stick. Some people come into Scottish Edge and feel as if they've got to show as if they're going to set the world on fire with 100,000. That doesn't always work. So we want ambitious but achievable, and you'll back those. You back up your projections with credible assumptions and easy to follow. So we've given you some guidance in these next few slides on submitting some great financials. So our finance manager has put this together for you. Here's an example of how to display and communicate the key metrics which the judges are looking for. So, for example, if your business model is a B2B channel, over the year 1, 2, and 3, you might do your assumptions around year 1 will have 5 customers. Each customer will purchase 100 units. There's an average unit price of £8 in this case, generating £12,000 in revenue with a gross margin of 38%. This is a very simple way of breaking down your sales assumptions. So rather than just writing text, you can break it down into this kind of level of detail so the judges can see where you get your sales projections from for the next 3 years. So that's just an example of how do you break that down. So it's the same for any business model. How do you break down where your sales are coming from? How many customers? What are they buying? How much is it costing? These are just simple finance stuff. So that can help the judges really understand your thought process behind how you're going to achieve the sales going forward. There's also a section in the application to put down your costs. It's really important that you break down your costs, and you've thought about this. So as you grow your business and you start to generate revenue, how much you're going to get allocated to marketing, how much in salaries, other costs can be rounded up, that's fine, and your total costs. That will then help to generate a figure of your net profit and loss against your sales. So make sure you think about breaking down the costs of your business over the next 3 years. So you've got your income, you've got your outgoings, and these are all projected. So they don't have to be, the judges know that they're not going to be exact, because at the end of the day, when you submit an application form for anything for a small business, the chances are it's out of date the minute you submit it, because businesses move so fast. But the judges want to see examples that you know your finances, you've got a good idea of what your costs might be, and that backs up your assumptions around how you're going to grow your business. So again, you could use some statements for credible assumptions. So you could say something like, customer growth picks up monthly as we progress through year 2 due to increased brand awareness and online presence. Or you might say something like, average selling price will be reduced to allow us to gain volume, although this can increase again as the brand becomes more recognised. So these are different example statements that you can put in to back up your assumptions on your figures. So B2B margin is lower as bulk volume deliveries. So if you're doing a B2B model, your margin could be lower because you're doing in bulk. So there's different ways of framing this. These are just some examples you can think of. How do you back up your sales with credible assumptions? Final few points in finances. So that businesses have to estimate their turnover, net profit, and jobs created over a 3-year period in the application form. Make sure you fill in these boxes because that helps the judges with an overall picture. So how many jobs are you going to create over the next 3 years? What's going to be your turnover and what's going to be your profit? Once you get through first stage, if you're coming in for a Scottish Edge category or a Social Edge category award, because there's loan elements to a potential award, we'll ask these finalists for a cash flow forecast. So we supply a template for that. It's a very simple 12-month cash flow, and we have to do that as a potential lender because we've got a duty of care to assess the financial viability of the finalists before any awards are offered. But that's only for the Scottish Edge category and the Social Edge category applicants. If you get to the final, there'll be a loan element potentially, so we will be asking for a cash flow, but that will come further down the line. All awards are paid in two tranches, and the second tranche is paid upon evidence of spend against the milestones. Now, the milestones for all winners in the contracts are effectively what you're going to spend the money on. And as long as you spend your first tranche against the agreed milestones, the agreed use of funds, then we will release the second tranche after we've done another further cash flow forecast. So that's for the winners. What to expect, any award will be paid out in two tranches. And the youngs and the wilds, the grants, they're also paid out in two tranches as well. And we'll look for evidence of spend against the agreed milestones for all categories. So if you've never done a 3-minute pitch video before, we've got some information here on what this looks like. Now, this is a tried and tested method on how to communicate your business idea in 3 minutes. A lot of people say to me that they've never done this before and it's impossible to say everything you want to say in 3 minutes. The judges are not expecting you to say everything you want to say in 3 minutes. This is about a business overview. Generally, what judges will do is they'll open your application form and they'll watch your video. So they want to get an overview of what is this application, what is it all about. So they want a good headline overview of some key elements, and these are the key elements that they're going to look for. Now, there's good examples on our website of 3-minute pitch videos. There's a few on YouTube on open source as well. So you can have a look at good 3-minute pitch videos. What does it look like? What does it sound like? But this is a kind of a flow that we recommend you start to think about if you've never done one before. What do you want to communicate? Not only what do you want to communicate, but how do you communicate it? And I want you to think about, if you've never done a 3-minute pitch video before, think about one of the key things is how much can you say in 3 minutes? So the tone of voice I'm speaking at the moment and the speed that I'm speaking at is probably about 450 words per minute. So if you've never written a pitch script, if you've never written a pitch before, think about 150 words per minute. That's a good guide to think about where do you start, how much can you possibly say in 3 minutes, and that's a good starting point. And then you might want to start to break that down into headlines. So your headlines could be, you want to have a good introduction. So your introduction could be something catchy, interesting, shocking, a hook of some kind to start off your business pitch that gets the judges really interested in what you're talking about. Then you want to kind of talk about the problem. So what problem have you identified that you're solving here? Why is it a problem? Who is it a problem for? What evidence do you have? And that'll be in your customer section. You'll talk about your solution in your value proposition section. So what is it you've come up with? What are you delivering? What is your product or service? Why is it different? Why is it unique? You want to talk about your market size and revenue model. Again, this will all go into your application too. So how big is the market? How have you validated that? How do you generate money? What does your revenue model look like? You want to talk about your competition. All businesses have competition of some kind, whether that's direct or indirect. And you might want to talk about the risks in the section of the application that asks you for your key business risks. Think about them clearly and identify your risks. When you're pitching about your team, it's really important to talk about your team. Who's behind this idea? What skill set do they have? And one of the things I get asked a lot is how do you pitch a team when you are a solo entrepreneur? Well, you think about all the support that you get. Are you a business accelerator? Are you connected with a government agency that's supporting your business? Do you have a mentor? That they can be built in as part of your team. Advisors can be part of your team. Anyone who's helping you guide your idea forward can be counted as part of your team. So you can talk about the support that you're getting from others. If you're a solo entrepreneur, if you're an established team, you've got a CSO, or you've got a marketing person, or you've got staff. Talk about your team. What are the skill sets? What do you have, and potentially what are your gaps? In your pitch, you might want to talk about your traction. So, what have you achieved so far up to this date? Have you built something? Have you tested something? Have you validated your customer segments? What is that traction? What have you achieved? And you talk about your ask. Why are you coming to Scottish Edge? How much you need? What you need it for? Now, this is a kind of recommended structure. You can put whatever structure you want into your video, but over the years, judges tell us this is what they want to hear in a pitch video. They want to hear these key elements because the judge will then start to build a picture in their mind of what the business is, and they're in a good place to start reading your application form. Now, you don't have to do it in this order. You can do it in any order you like. It's your pitch video, it's your story. You tell it the way you're comfortable telling it. When you're doing your pitch video itself, we just ask you to record. You can record it on your phone. We're not looking for Spielberg Productions here. This is literally the judges want to see the entrepreneur behind this or the team behind this. They want to see the passion for what they're doing. They want to see and hear that 3-minute pitch. I definitely recommend you don't hide behind the slide deck. You know, the judges want to hear your story. This is your story. Tell it to the judges. So come on camera, record it if you're comfortable. Sorry, come on camera, record it, and let the judges see the entrepreneurs or the team behind this business project, this business idea, and convince them that this is your passion. You want to deliver on this, and you need funding to move this forward. When you go through the process of Scottish Edge, each stage there's assessment criteria, and the 6 key areas that all applications are assessed on are on screen, and these are exactly the same key areas that are in the application form. So if you remember back just a wee while ago, I talked you through the sections in the application form that you have to fill in, and it's these sections here. We'll ask you questions on your value proposition, we'll ask you questions on your team, the impact you hope to make, both societal and environmental. We'll ask you questions about your customer focus. We'll ask you questions on business growth, and we'll ask you questions on use of funds. At every stage, judges will use this assessment criteria, and they will use these as a guide to score each section out of 5. And the judges will use that scoring mechanism to identify the highest scoring businesses to go through to the next stages. Now, all our assessors sign confidentiality agreements before they look at a single application form. So everyone who's recruited for this process, before they see any applications, have to sign a confidentiality agreement. So they can't share any information they read. In Touchwood, we've never had a breach of intellectual property, and certainly in my time at Scottish Edge, and I don't think there has been either. So your information is safe and secure. Anything you put in that application form will not be shared outside the Scottish Edge team or the assessors, so your information will be nice and secure. And we recruit assessors from all across the business ecosystem in Scotland, from every stage of the competition. And as I said, all judges will be given the application forms and the videos to review and assess, and that gets done at every single stage. So your first stage that you're looking at the moment, the judges will get your application form, and the judges will read those applications, review the videos, give feedback, and choose the businesses who they want to go through to the semi-final stage. A little bit more detail when it comes to each of the 6 sections. This is what the judges are looking for. So in your value proposition, they're looking for, is the product or service clearly articulated? Is there a good awareness of the competition? Is there a clear point of difference, and are key risks understood? Now, these questions on this slide are the same questions that's in the application form. So effectively, if you answer all the questions clearly in the application form, you're giving the judges what they need. Okay? So just take your time, read the application. What are the questions in the application form? What is it looking for? Make sure you answer those clearly and concisely, and that gives the judges what they need to make a sound decision on your business proposal. So again, over the 6 key criteria, this is what the judges are looking for. Under the team, they're looking to understand, does the business team and the business leader and team have the skills and experience to drive the business forward? If not, have they identified gaps? Is there commercial experience in the team, and do you have support network who's backing you up with this? So it's the same for every section. in the application form itself, there's clear questions. Answer those questions. That will give the judges what they're looking for when it comes to making decisions. Submitting a great application, what does that look like? Make it easy for the assessors to understand your business and don't leave unanswered questions. Judges will be reviewing a lot of applications, so don't use jargon. If you're a technical founder, if you're a technical business, try and avoid jargon. Don't assume that the judges reviewing your application know your language. So, make sure you're writing in a style that anyone can read and understand what the key business proposition actually is. So it's up to the applicant to make things clear to the judges. Know the assessment criteria as you go through the process. As I've said many times, the questions are in the application. If you answer the questions, you're putting yourself in a good position. So think about that assessment criteria as you go through. Clearly outline your point of difference. So, what is unique against your competition? Make sure your USP is very clear. Be realistic, but we want you to be ambitious with your financial forecasting and explain how you're going to achieve it. One of the key areas in an application form that tends to fall down is customer engagement. So the judges want to see that you've done some real customer validation. What I mean by that is not just that you've got a survey that shows that 100 people were surveyed by an external company and it showed this. What customer engagement, what customer validation have you done? How many customers have you spoken to? What have you asked them? What have you learned? How has that validated what you're trying to achieve? Don't just rely on stats on your sector. That is not customer validation. That does not validate a market size, doesn't validate a customer demand. The judges are looking for real customer engagement and validation. So what we spend the funding on, simplify your breakdown of the spend. The judges are not looking for, you're going to spend £100 on a desk, you're not going to spend, £100 on whatever it is. They're looking for your spend breakdown to be kind of rolled up. If you're asking for £100,000, they don't need a list of every single thing you're going to spend, but roll it up, for example, 45k on recruiting a marketing manager for 6 months, or you might want to put down 30k for marketing spend on Google Ads or whatever that is, but simplify the spend breakdown and make sure the judges are clear on why spending the money in that way will move your business forward. When it comes to the impact section, a lot of people kind of get stuck in this section, especially if you're an early stage business. We're going to ask you questions on how do you hope to affect how do you hope to have impact in both societal and environmental impact? Now, one of the key pieces of advice I'll give you here is this is about what you hope to do in future. The judges are not expecting early stage companies to have sustainability policies, to have lots of circular, might have a circular business model yet. They're not looking for all that in early stage companies. But what they are looking for is you to think about what you hope to achieve in future around creating well-paid jobs, real living wage for societal impact or environmental impact. What do you hope to build into the foundations of your company in the future? And that's what judges will score you highly on. You've thought about it. You've thought about the UN Sustainability Development Goals. You've thought about which ones can apply to your business in future and what you intend to do in future. So to reiterate that point on the impact section, they're not looking to see what you're doing now. That's not realistic. They're looking to see what you intend to do in future. Because if you're an early stage company and you're baking impact into the foundations of your company now, that will have a bigger benefit in future. So that's what they want to see. That's what they want to read. Make sure you download and print off a copy of your application if you wish. You can keep that. Please make sure you double check your form before you submit it and do not leave any sections blank. We keep the application form down to the minimum in terms of sections, and all the sections have value. So don't just leave sections blank. Put some commentary in there. It's there for a reason. The judges are looking for information in that section. So double check your application forms. Make sure you haven't missed anything. And again, that comes down to don't leave this to the last minute, because if you do, you'll end up missing something and your application could be withdrawn from the competition because you actually haven't submitted enough information. So additional support is available for applicants with neurodivergent conditions. So as I've talked about earlier, we are running a workshop next week, Tuesday the 18th, 10 a.m. If any applicants have neurodiverse conditions and they would like to inquire about additional support, please feel free to sign up to that workshop, and we will explain with our partners on what additional support we can make. Now, we also make it very clear on that workshop what we can't do for you, because this is a competition. So it's got to be a level playing field for all applicants. So we're happy to do as much as we possibly can, but just a simple thing, for example, we can't write an application for you. We can't change the assessment process. Everyone has to go through the same assessment process. But there's more information next week on what additional support we could potentially offer or guide you towards. So when it comes to the perfect video, the panel want to see a passionate and believable entrepreneur. So don't hide behind a slide deck. I know going on camera can be really uncomfortable, but this is a competition where judges buy into people buy people. So they want to see the entrepreneur behind this. They want to see the passion for it. So, get on camera, do your 3-minute pitch video, let them see why you believe in this business so they can believe in you and put you through this next stage. Showcase your product or service. Make sure it's very clear what you do and why you do it. Don't leave the panel asking, so what is this? So that's what I'm really importantly, don't use jargon to explain your value proposition. Keep it nice and clear and simple. Make sure the judges know what it is you're doing. You can involve your team or even your customers in your pitch video if you have some. You can introduce your team. You can have one of your members of your team speaking on camera. You might do a customer testimonial, include that. You can do that as well. You can have that if you like. As I said, we're not looking for Hollywood quality. This is about you, your product, and your business. That's what the judges want to see and hear. Fancy graphics are great, but it doesn't get you through the competition. You can put in a slide if you want. You can put in a graphic if you like. But really, the judges want to see you. They want to hear from you. Be natural and engaging. You can use auto cue. You can use notes for your pitch story, whatever that looks like. Whatever you're comfortable with is absolutely fine. But try and engage. You want the judges to see and feel what you're doing. So try and be natural and comfortable and engaging as you possibly can. So your application form and video make up your combined submission. So you don't need to repeat every word in your application on the video. As I said, your video is a summary, a 3-minute summary of what it is you're actually pitching here. And then the application form goes into more detail. So your video is a headline, effectively, of your business, and then the application is all the detail of the business. When you create your video, we recommend that you put it on YouTube, but mark it as unlisted. It's the easiest way for judges to get access to your video. And in our competition brochure, there's plenty of information on how to actually do this. Again, I'd recommend you not put a password on your video. It can just create issues with judges getting access to your video, because the video is every bit as important as the application form itself. Make sure you give yourself plenty of time for creation of that video and the uploading of it as well. Don't leave the loading of your video to the last minute, because technical issues could come along and it's going to put you under pressure for submitting on the 27th of February for 2 p.m. Please make sure you watch your video back before you submit it. And that's all 3 minutes of it, not just the first minute. I see so many videos that either cut off towards the end, or have got poor sound quality and you can't actually hear what the person's saying, or there's background noise, there's interference, or it doesn't play properly. Make sure you check your video, check all 3 minutes of it before you submit it. So if you're successful at Scottish Edge, it's more than just the money. So as I said, all applicants will receive feedback from a business expert to help them through the business journey. So all your assessors will be offering feedback on your application. More than 50% of our winners have won on a second, third, or even fourth application at Scottish Edge. This is a competition. It's not easy to secure funding, but you'll learn every time you come through the process. Winners get access to a support package by our key partners, including Harper McLeod for legal support, Johnson Carmichael for accountancy, James Hallam for insurance, and there's many, many more. key support partners, and you can find all these on our website. So winners get access to additional support. Winners can join the Edge alumni, which I said is over 600 companies. So there's lots and lots of experience to be tapped into there to help you grow your business. And winners get a dedicated Edge relationship manager. We've got a team of relationship managers. We've got 3 now, and these relationship managers are there to help, support, and guide you. They're not there to run your business, but you can tap into them for getting pointed in the right direction for support in the Scottish business ecosystem, because they've all got great networks and they're willing to help. So you can get access to a relationship manager as well. Okay, it's question time. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now. I'm going to come to Jack and I'm going to check in with the Q&A and see how the Q&A has been going, because I've had my screen minimized. So Jack.
Yep, hello. So yeah, it's been quite an active little chat session. I think we got to most there. There was one I said I would double back and check. It was just around in terms of the 200k cumulative turnover by year 3. Does that include additional money raised, so like further grant funding essentially, or is it all sort of started from when you started trading, the profit that's come from that essentially?
So your additional 3 years, 200k will be additional sales. That won't include grant funding, that won't include investment, anything like that. It's additional sales growth only.
Perfect. Thanks. Another one said I'd get you to expand a little on is around, sorry, just if I can find it now. The if a business has, if it's an agency, for example, that has one sort of primary product, is it good to just focus on that specific product for the application, or should it be in the business as a whole for the assessors?
In my experience, the product, so whatever your core product is, whatever it is going to be the core function of your business that's going to grow and generate the sales. Try and keep it really focused. I've seen applications where businesses talk about, multiple things that they're going to achieve. That doesn't look focused, and judges can't see how you can possibly deliver too many things at one time. So try and focus your application on the core foundations of your business.
Perfect. Right, so these are ones that are just sort of coming in live now. So is there preference for lower risk proposals?
Nope. The judges are looking for businesses that are innovative, they've got good growth potential, they've got a strong team, clear value proposition, customer validation. All the applications are assessed equally. So whether it's high risk or low risk, doesn't really make any difference. Scottish Edge invests in very high risk ideas, and it also invests in what might be conceived as a low risk idea. It's about the impact of the awards on these businesses. That's what the judges are looking for.
Yep. Sorry, I've got a dog going mental in the background here, sorry. So there's one just about the wildcard award, for example, the 15k. If they were to apply for that and they weren't successful, would they still be considered for the 10k?
Yes, in the wildcard and with the Youngs, there's limited 15k awards, so you might apply for a 15, but the judges might get to the end of the day and think there's some really good businesses in here, but we've only got one or two 15k awards, so we'll offer them a 10k instead. So there's the opportunity that you ask for 15, but you get offered a 10.
Perfect, thank you. So we've been advised to exclude non-revenue income such as grants. How should we proceed if our first year operations depend on grant funding?
You'll put that in your future funding plan section of your application form. So there's a section in there that talks about your future funding plans, and you'll put that in there so it won't go into your finance numbers. It goes into the section of the application to explain you've got revenue coming from an external source.
Perfect, thanks. So just a little bit in the neurodivergence applicants coming in from that background. If you're not too comfortable on camera, and that's part of what your condition, are assessors made aware of that? The
Yes.
the
Yeah.
audiences?
So the key partner we're working with on this is one of the supports that we can put in place. So if an applicant, doesn't want to do a piece to camera, we can make the judges aware of that, and you can submit that. So I talked about don't hide behind a slide deck, but if you come along to the workshop next week, we can talk about the additional support we can do around, if you're really not comfortable going on camera, what can we do for you to make sure the judges are aware that there's a reason why you're not on camera, and we can be guided by yourselves on that, on what kind of reasonable adjustments we can make for your application. So in short, yes, we can make adjustments to someone who's not comfortable pitching on camera.
Okay. Is it okay to include some testimonials in the video and some team members, for example?
Yes. So again, that was in the advice and guidance. You can bring in your team members for the pitch video or testimonials, whatever you want to add. Absolutely fine. It's your pitch video, it's your story.
Okay. So just checking if I were to apply, so if I were to apply for 100k via Edge, then realize I'm eligible for Pathways too, does that mean I'm applying for 100k still or 200k in total?
That's a very good question, because I'm going to redo that slide. No, you can only apply for 100k, and if your business is successful, you get 100k, and then the judges and the supporters, the judges and the sponsors of the awards will decide who gets additional Pathways award. So it sits on top of your funding. It's like a special recognition award. It's not an additional £100,000 of funding.
Okay. The extra awards such as STV, are they open to wildcard?
No, because the STV award is for the Scottish Edge category. So the special category awards only apply to the Scottish Edge category awards. So the STV is for someone who's applying for up to £100,000 of funding at Scottish Edge.
Yeah. And it's additionally they carry a loan element as well, which is
Yes.
can't have the grant. Um, Regarding the criteria for wildcard, minimum of 50% of the business ownership is attributed to directors actively working in the business on a day-to-day basis. Are you ineligible if you have a full-time job?
Not necessarily, because most people have full-time jobs these days and still build businesses. So that's okay. As long as you can prove that you're working on growing this business and you've got a plan to grow the business, that's fine. You are eligible.
Okay. If I apply for the same amount in Young Edge, will that be considered for a wildcard edge if the panel thinks it's a better fit?
No, it's up to you to decide if you're going to come into young or wild. So these are different panels, so they won't be cross-pollinating. So effectively, you have to decide if you're coming in for young, you'll be judged as a young. If you're coming in for wild, you'll be judged as a wild. You won't be moved across both categories.
Right, I think that's maybe come off the back of what I've advised in the thing. So I think I'd said that essentially if we or the assessor said looked at a business and thought it's coming in the wrong category, then we would perhaps move it across before the assessment took place.
Yeah,
So that would happen pre-assessment, so it wouldn't be
yeah,
the
that's correct, Jack. So if
that's maybe
sometimes, yeah,
I'll follow through that
some,
said wrong.
yeah, sometimes we get applications when we're doing the preparation for the first stage assessments. We'll look at the application and think that's actually in the wrong category, and we'll contact the applicant and say we're actually going to move you into a different category. But at the assessment stage, when the judges are making their decisions, you can't be moved across.
Thank you. I've had positive conversations with I think it's Scottish Enterprise, around their tech scale renovation and grant. Is there any conflict if I was successful with this?
No, no conflict at all. It's tech scalar funding comes from Scottish Government, so our grants come from Scottish Government, but there's no conflict.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for the response around risk. How important is confidence and ability to repay the loan element? Scottish Edge is an evergreen fund that requires that clearly versus potential upside multiples on equity injection. I'm not sure
I'm
of.
not quite sure what that means, but
No.
I'll try and answer the first part of the question. If you're applying to a business competition and you're asking for a loan, you have to show good um, information that you can return that loan at some point. Now, we're flexible funders, so we can work with what's affordable for the business, but we're expecting that loan to come back in the future because we have to recycle that loan and get that out to other businesses. So, if you're applying for a Scottish Edge category with a loan, think about how you're going to repay that.
Okay. Thank you. So just a question kind of around the terms. I think it's around kind of patentable ideas. I think we're essentially advising that you don't submit anything that's not you wouldn't want to share or you wouldn't want to be kept confidential. But you're saying how can you submit something, but without giving confidential information to a panel to assess? I don't know that we do say that, do we? It's
No, so all our judges sign confidentiality agreements. So everything you put in your application form is protected under that confidentiality agreement. Everything you put in your video is protected. So it doesn't get shared outside the judging panels who all sign confidentiality agreements. So other than standing in a public space, if you get to the a final and you're in a public event, you might not want to pitch disclose anything in a public event, but we deal with that nearer the time. In terms of first stage applications, all judges are under confidentiality agreements, so everything you put in your application, everything you put in your video is protected.
Okay. Does our video pitch have to include footage of our product?
Not necessarily, but it would make sense if you've got a product, judges might want to see it. If it's something that needs to be shown, you might want to hold it up. You might want to have an image. You might want to have a mock-up if it's at an early stage of development. You might want to bring something to life with a visual. That can help.
Okay. Do you apply for the STV category or do you automatically get entered? I'm applying for a wildcard, but that would be just what I need for my product. Again, I don't think you can get it if it's wildcard.
No, so the youngs and the wilds and social, you can't get access to STV. STV only sits within the Scottish Edge category. And when you go into the application form, you'll check the boxes of the special categories that you feel you sit best under. But at the end of the day, it's the sponsors of the awards who choose which winners get those special category awards.
Okay, thank you. I'm neurodiverse but cannot make the workshop next week. Is there any way I can speak to someone regarding this before the pitch video is submitted?
Yes, my email address is on the slides, so I can stick that in the chat function if you like. You can email myself directly, and if I can't get back to you, I'll get one of the team to come back to you and give you some guidance as best as we can.
Okay, so a two-parter, I think. So the first part, it says edge funding can't be used for founders or existing team salaries. Could it be used to transition a freelancer that is on the business team on a monthly, sorry, essentially transfer a freelancer to the team?
Yes, give me 1 second. I'm just going to switch my laptop on.
So yeah,
I see
just
my battery running out. Bear with me a second. Sorry. Yes, the funds can be used to bring in external support. That's absolutely fine. But you can't pay existing staff or directors with an award.
okay. Okay, I'll just read quite a lengthy one. I'll just read this out. So, on business growth, is there a specific term for how the year one, year two, year three timeline should run? For example, does it follow the UK tax year, or would it be in line with when you receive your Edge grant?
It follows your business tax year, whichever tax year you run to or you hope to run to. So you'll set it up from your own business tax year when you start. Either you're trading now or you're going to be trading in future. You'll set it up to what your business tax year is, or what you hope it will, or what you plan to set it up to be.
Okay, thanks. Another part of that. As for the trading figures section, if you haven't been trading for a full year yet, should the figure run from when you started trading to the date you submit your Edge application, or if your stock is sold out and trading has paused earlier, can your timeline reflect that?
No, try not to overthink this too much. You just put your timeline down of your trading years, and then you put your numbers in on top of that. So, not quite sure what that question is asking, but this sounds like it's you don't end your financial figures when you submit your Edge application. Almost forget that. You want to put your figures in around your financial year when it starts and when it ends.
Okay, thank you. Just about the headquarter in Scotland. So essentially, operating and based in Scotland, headquartered there, but registered in England. Is that okay?
There are circumstances where businesses will have registered a company in England, but they've moved up here. We can look at those by exception, and we'll pick those up in the application process. So as I see the applications come in, I maybe will contact an applicant and explain, you've got an English limited company. Can you tell me why this is going to be a headquartered in Scotland? And we'll pick those up by exception.
Okay. Um, so yeah, just someone asked if they can reach out to speak to someone one-to-one support for neurodivergence. Yep, that's fine. So just email yourself, Kev, or
Well, and the first point of contact is next week for the workshop on the 18th.
mhm.
So that's our first level of support that we're going to offer. There's lots of information being shared there, but if you still need a one-to-one contact, then just email myself directly.
Okay, thank you. For companies pre-trading, when showing your customer validation, can survey results be used if you don't have any actual customers yet?
Survey results can be used as long as, so the best survey results that I've seen are based on work that you've done. So you've spoken to X amount of people, you've asked them these questions, this is what you've learned. But your survey has to be of a good amount of people. So, for example, I read an application once where the applicant spoke to 10 people. That is not enough customer validation for the amount of funding they were looking for. So think about how much validation have you done, how many people have you spoken to, and what have you learned, and how do you
Mm.
communicate that? That's what the judges want to hear.
Yeah. In regards to the 200k turnover and not including additional grants, investment, if this was required for you to turn over 200k, would you write this in the application to back up your figures and assumptions?
You need to read that to me again, Jack. I'm not quite
Yeah.
understanding that one either.
So I think essentially if you're needing the grants and investments to reach your 200k, but you're not including those in your figures, would you write that in your application? Would you detail those grants in your application just to back up what you've put in your?
No. So all judges will make the assumption that if you get the money you're asking for, you will achieve your sales growth. So you don't have to add it into your figures anywhere. The assumption is that if you're asking for 100k and you're going to generate an additional 200, 300, 400, whatever it's going to be, then it's based on the fact that you'll generate those numbers, you'll generate those sales if you get that amount of award.
Okay, thank you. So just about risks. Um, if you're highlighting the risks in the video, are you meaning here's what will happen if nothing changes in this space, and that's why I need this funding, or is it here's the risks my business is facing as I grow?
Yeah, risk to the business. So, what is the risk if you don't secure funding? What is the risk if you don't hire talent? What is the
Mhm.
risk in your sector? Is the sector changing? What are the internal and external risks that could affect your business over the next 3 to 6 months, for example? Be clear on what those are.
Okay. Is there any conflict between Smart Grant Scotland and Wildcard Edge grants? Is it okay if someone applies for both?
Yes.
Okay. So someone said you know. Uh, when is missed the first part of the meeting. When is the workshop and how do I register? Oh, sorry, I think it's just for the neurodivergence one, I think.
Yeah.
So we'll have that a link for that on the website in the workshop section. You can sign up for that there if someone's looking for that link. How's the final number sorry, how is the final number of winners determined? Is there a set amount of funding to be distributed, or does it depend on how each application scores?
So, there's a maximum pot of 1.5 million this round to be awarded across all categories. So, general terms, I mean, the different categories I've tried to break down roughly how many winners is in each category. But the maximum amount of 1.5 will be distributed across all winners across all categories.
So essentially, what would constitute business validation in that section? What are you looking for? Like letters from customers, letters of intent, etc. What would help validate?
Customer validation is about you speaking to your target customer directly, or you've got evidence of your target customer exists, and that you've validated that the solution that you're pitching to the judges has been, it's been put in front of your customer segment who understands what you're trying to achieve and who have potentially, validated that that solves the problem they have. So you've done some work to identify your customer segment. You've done some work to speak to them, engage them, validate the fact that what you're trying to achieve, there is a market for it.
Okay. Just to note maybe an error with the link for the neurodivergent saying different dates, so 20th versus 18th. So I'll check that with you offline, Kevin, to make sure it's the right date that's on there.
I'll just check my calendar right now, Jack, whilst you're looking at the next.
Okay. Um, So there's a question around the loan element, interest rates, etc. So all the loan terms are on page 22 of the competition brochure that we shared a bit further up. The link for that. If you can't find that, it's on the website as well. So page 22 of the brochure gives you all the loan terms.
So, Jack, neurodiverse support workshop, Tuesday, the 18th of February, 10 a.m.
Tuesday the 18th. Okay, so the link says the 20th for some reason, apparently. So I'll double check that and see if the link needs updated. So 18th. Thanks for
Yep.
lighting that. Um, can we use our social media communications, including specific ads and polls we've run as part of the customer validation process,
Yes.
essentially showing your online engagement?
Yep.
Okay. Is it saying is it, do we need to match fund? I think that's what it's saying there for, oh, I'm not sure what the question is, sorry. Diana, if you could maybe ask that again, or feel free to turn on your mic if it's easier. Um, is there a big awards party at the end if successful?
Say that again,
Is there a
Jack.
big awards party at the end if successful? So it's an awards evening essentially. We have
Yeah, we have an awards evening. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and there's some networking and drinking and things.
Yeah.
If you drink. So I think Diana was asking, do we need to match fund for for an Edge Award? I, I mean, I'm assuming that's what's been asked, but I don't. That's a no. You don't need to match fund the award.
No. So Edge Awards are a standalone award. You don't have to find additional match funding. Match funding is a term that's used that when sometimes you go to Scottish Enterprise and they'll give you funding, but you have to find match funding. In other words, you've got to go and raise additional funds to go against that award to access a Scottish Enterprise Award. That's the term match funding. You don't need match funding to secure a Scottish Edge Award, if that's the question that's been asked.
Okay, thank you. Can we get a copy of the slides? So this whole recording with the slides included will be up on the website just shortly after we finish here. We'll put it up there for anyone who wants to revisit anything. Okay, some of the financial years tabs are, sorry, it's moved. Some of the financial years tabs are grayed out in my application form, meaning I can't put my end of year dates in. Is this an issue in the system or
That
something
sounds
specific?
like potentially someone's put pre-trading instead of trading. But I'll have a double check of the system just to make sure. I'll just take a wee note of that. But nothing should be. I mean, if you followed the instructions and you put in your trading date, your trading start date, then there shouldn't be any issues with boxes being grayed out. However, if there are any issues with the application process, if you email info@scottishedge.com, and we'll pick up if you've got any challenges with you completing the application form itself.
Okay. Just someone asking, can you apply for Edge as a previous winner? So if you've won in one of the subcategories like young or wild, then you can apply for main edge, but not the other way around. Or once you've had main edge, then that's essentially the last time you can apply.
Yeah, so
Um,
a Scottish Edge winner of the past can only win Scottish Edge once. If you're a young or a wildcard winner, you can apply for a Scottish Edge category award, but you can't apply again for a young or a wild.
and I think that's us. If anyone, oh sorry, uh, can you apply for regional edge if you've won main?
So regional Edge will be completed before this process ends. So if your regional Edge competition is a separate competition that we are running with 4 regional partners, you can apply to regional Edge and you can apply to round 25 of Scottish Edge at the same time. We allow that. But the regional edge applications will be completed. Sorry, the regional edge competition will be completed on the 6th of March. That's when the last kind of finals held. But regional edge is closed for new applications at the moment. That's a pilot project that's ongoing, but we're not accepting new applications for regional edge, if that answers the question.
Yep. So I think that's all that I've seen in the chat. No, another one. For the non-revenue income inclusion, there is no field for future funding for wildcard.
I'll need to look at that. There should be. I don't know what that question's asking.
Again, if there's something
Okay,
specific.
if you don't mind putting that question to the info mailbox, we'll pick that up on a direct one-to-one basis.
Perfect. Yep, I think that's us for now.
Okay, thanks everyone. As Jack says, this recording will be on our website. Thanks for joining. Any key questions? So I know a couple of you want to email me directly. General application questions, if you can put them into the info mailbox, we'll pick them up and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. But for now, good luck everyone. Hopefully we'll see you all soon in the next stage.